seen it, I hope if they would.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
How are you?
Madam Secretary.
Hello.
¿Cómo estás?
Mr. Yee wanted to talk about this bill.
My beef here. Is this? All right, we need two bodies for a GO committee. We need 2. We may start as a subcommittee in a couple of moments in the interest of time for everyone. You know what I might do? Just in the interest of, excuse me, Assemblyman, I'm going to ask Mr. Berryhill if he would come up. Mr. Berryhill, I think I want to just start as a subcommittee. Members, Mr. Berryhill has AB 2036. As soon as we establish a quorum, sir, I'm going to interrupt and make the quorum.
Okay.
But why don't you begin on your measure?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be before this very impressive committee. I want to just start by bringing you AB 2036. You see, it's come to my attention that some public agencies, and I stress some, are now starting to charge contractors, subcontractors, and material suppliers for sets of plans and specifications in order to bid on an agency's public works project. And I want to stress there are still many and most public agencies that don't do this practice. However, for the ones that do, I'm very concerned that it is contrary to good public policy. From my point of view, I would contend that the minor cost involved to the public agency to provide sets of plans, as well as the specifications to all prospective bidders, is more than offset by the increased competition of which it creates, which ultimately reduces the construction cost of the project, saving precious tax dollars. In addition, allowing more competition will significantly increase the chance for contractors to come up with innovations that will further drive down the cost of those projects where everybody wins. This measure will simply require all public agencies accepting bids for their public works projects to provide both electronic as well as paper sets of plans and specifications at no cost to all potential bidders. However, the agency may require up to a $250 deposit for each set, which is then refundable and returned within 14 days after the project is awarded. With me today to speak on behalf of my measure is Rex Klein, as well as several other supporters. Rex?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here. As you can probably tell, I've never done this before. My name is Rex Klein. I'm the CEO of Barry Hunt Administrators, and I work with 31 construction associations in California that operate plan rooms. These plan rooms distribute information from public agencies to concerning commercial, industrial, institutional, and heavy highway projects. This practice of collecting plans from state agencies and providing as a distribution point has gone on since 1890 was the first one in San Francisco. And the same practices that created it in 1890 are still valuable today. Some agencies recently have began charging for plans and specifications for projects. AB 2036 solves this problem, ensuring that all interested parties have the ability to access the plans and specifications. The reasons why these restricting access is not good is if you look at a contractor, whether it's somebody building a large building or even adding to a school or doors or anything like that, if they have to pay anywhere between $250 to $500 for each job they bid, they simply cannot bear the cost, especially the small companies. And what I mean by small, it's more like small and medium. If they have to bid up to anywhere between 20 to 50 projects to get a single job, multiply that times buying the plans and specifications each time, they simply can't do it. So it eliminates the small companies, the more minority-owned companies. It's just a very difficult thing for them to handle. The plan rooms serving the construction industry, what they do is they take these plans and they put them in their library, and people are able to come in, look at the plans, do whatever they need to do with those plans to put together a bid for a project, and then they submit the bid to the general contractor or the agency who's running that project. What the service that the plan rooms offer is they take one set of plans, whether it's electronic or paper, and allow access to over 15,000 construction firms in California at little or no cost. From the point of view of the contractors, bidding a project is very time intensive. If they have to work, when they put together a bid on a project, they may spend a week or two of their time putting together a bid for that particular project. So there's also already a pretty steep investment on the end of the contractor just to bid the work. If they're faced with having to purchase these plans, many will simply not bid at all, which would essentially lower the number of bids you get for public projects. And if you have a lower number of bids, it provides upward pressure. Yes, sir.
Secretary, call a roll. You didn't do anything wrong.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Wright?
Here.
Wright present. Harmon? Here. Harmon present. Calderon?
Okay.
Denham? Flores? Flores present. Negretti-McLeod? Negretti-McLeod present. Oropeza? Padilla? Price? Price present. Wyland? Yee? Yee present.
Okay, we have a quorum established. Let me, sir, I'm going to move to the other people on the
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Phil Vermeulen, representing the engineering contractors and several other small contractor associations throughout the state. And simply, you heard from the previous witness, this is important public policy. The more competition you have, the better prices you're going to get, the more innovation. And for those reasons, we would urge your aye vote. Very important bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dave Ackerman, representing the Associated General Contractors. As you know, we really rely upon competitive bids from our subcontractor community to put our public works bids together. If we have to charge, if the small contractors are charged for those plans, we're going to get fewer and fewer bids from the subcontractor community. We rely on the competition to basically allow us to submit competitive bids to the public agencies. Plus, emerging and small business and minority contractors, this would put them at an extreme disadvantage if they're forced to have to pay for every plan that they bid to general contractors on public jobs. So we ask for your support.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Chris Walker on behalf of the California Association of Sheet Metal Air Conditioning Contractors. As previous witnesses have said, it's very important for the subcontractors to be able to have access to plans to be able to bid these jobs and to provide the competition public agencies need. We support the bill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Kevin Pedrati representing the Golden State Builders Exchanges. My clients are the ones that run the plans rooms that Rex was referring to. And as he said, they provide a service to an array of thousands of contractors out there, and we see no reason why they should be charged for these plans.
Mr. Chair, Todd Bloomstein on behalf of the Southern California Contractors Association. This industry is being devastated right now with the downturn in the economy. 2005 actual construction dollars was $96 billion. Last year, 2009, $38 billion. It's a 60% reduction. Every little bit to help this industry will help. Appreciate your support. Thank you.
We have further witnesses in support. There are witnesses in opposition. Is there pleasure of the committee? Senator Harmon?
I had a question about the bill on page 2, line 17. I don't know if somebody take a look at it. This is the language about the government entity is to reimburse landscape architects, professional engineers. What is that? What's the purpose of that? And why is that in the bill, and what are we trying to do with that?
Phil, would you like to address that? Or Kevin?
And I suppose the question is, you've just limited it to landscape architects, and professional engineers. You know, what if somebody else is entitled to reimbursement? Will they not get reimbursed? These members of these three groups will get reimbursed? I'm just somebody explain to me why that's in there. I'm sure there's a reasonable reason for it.
Don't everybody speak at once.
Yeah, that was a hot. Oh, thank you. The reimbursement for the to the landscape architect for the plans. I would suspect, I'm guessing that it would be that the plans are...
Okay. All right, hold up. See, let me tell you, see, you're new.
Yes, I am, sir.
If you don't know,
Okay, I don't know.
it's okay to say, I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, that's all right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Dave Ackerman, representing the Associated General Contractors. This experience, this language was taken from several language in several other states that experienced the same things. It was lifted out of language that was addressed in the state of Illinois and Iowa as well. So it was patterned after the statute in those states, so we have consistency across the board. Came from the Associated General Contractors of America.
So is this talking about when the plans are initially prepared and then all the people that want to bid on it want to get copies of it, which is what the bill primarily deals with?
Right.
And then is it going to reimburse the people that prepared those plans that are then being distributed?
That's correct, Senator Harmon. Public agencies at the local level normally do not have on-staff engineers, landscape architects,
Sure.
and the like, so they have to contract that out to have those plans prepared, and this would provide for their reimbursement of the costs for those.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's the answer to the question is...
That makes sense.
But, I mean, just because everybody else did it doesn't make it right. I think Senator Harmon raises a point. Perhaps the reimbursement should be for bidders, period, absent trying to specify which bidder is more entitled than another bidder. I mean, why is the landscape architect more entitled than the roofing guy?
That's what I'm trying to get to, Mr. Chairman. I don't understand if this language is directed to the bidders, or is this language directed to the underlying professionals that prepared these plans that all the bidders are looking at?
Yeah.
That make any sense?
Mr. Chairman, this language is directed to the professionals that prepared the plans, not those who are requesting the plans for the purpose of bidding.
Mr. Berryhill, if we're going to go to approach from here, I understand if we're successful, why don't we just make it to the person who's bidding, and if without, I'm not trying to force something, but I think the idea is that the person who's bidding, who puts up the deposit, you'd want him to have an opportunity to get his money back.
His money back, exactly.
Okay. Senator Harmon, if we adjust it to just make it clear that it's the bidder and not go into the specific definitions?
Well, is that, or the one that prepared the plans is the one that should be entitled to reimbursement, but I don't know. I'm okay with it. Just leave it the way it is.
Okay. We'll leave kind of the amendment portion open. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Yeah, let's leave that open, and we can work on that.
We can play that
Senator.
in probes. Is there moved by Senator Yee? You get the last word, sir.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to present today. As you well know, this downturn in this economy has devastated this industry. Access to capital is very difficult for small businesses, many minority-owned businesses, and they need all the help they can get right now. This bill simply attempts to do that. Respectfully ask for that aye vote.
Okay. Well, this will be due pass to appropriations as may possibly be amended relative to the language raised by Senator Harmon. Secretary, call the roll.
Wright.
Aye.
Wright, aye. Harmon. Aye. Harmon, aye. Calderon. Denham. Flores. Negretti-McLeod. Negretti-McLeod, aye. Oropeza. Padilla. Price. Aye. Price, aye. Wyland. Yee. Aye. Yee, aye. Flores, aye. Flores, aye. That's 6.
That 6 will hold the roll open, but that's enough for you to move, sir.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Solomon Delatorre. Members, Solomon Delatorre has AB 635.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This bill is a committee bill of the Accountability and Administrative Review Committee. It's prompted by findings of months of investigation as a result of a public complaint. This hearing happened in June, so that is why the bill is a recent bill. But the hearing found widespread efforts to limit competition in our 10,000 K through 12 schools up and down this state. We have about 10,000 schools up and down the state. These school roofing projects use, in some cases, proprietary specifications and bidding documents to force contractors to use a specific roofing manufacturer's products. Bidding documents examined for school re-roofing projects throughout the state limited these products to a specific manufacturer or created significant hurdles for any contractor attempting to substitute an alternate product that could be similar in quality and less costly. This practice leads to non-competitive bidding and higher prices, inflating the costs by a projected 25% or more. The committee found routine increases of 40, 60, and even as much as 100%. Sales representatives from some manufacturers provide free inspections and consultations for district officials, do the construction planning and procurement, and often provide bidding documents with specs favoring their company or naming them outright. For convenience sakes, I think, school districts say, all right, you're doing the full service. That's great. They don't know that they are being driven in a specific direction by agreeing to that convenience. The decision on whether another product will do the job for less money is given to the pre-selected manufacturer identified in the closed specification. You write the rules, you're going to get a desired result. AB 635 levels the playing field by requiring three things. Number one, independent judgment on product substitutions. Not in every case, only in cases where there is a product substitution determination that has to be made, requires an independent evaluation of that. Second, a disclosure of financial ties between various parties in the process. And third, a toll-free phone line to report instances of project manipulation and online publishing of the specified bid. Now, this third component, this hotline, is something that testimony showed would be very valuable in just having some place to report when this takes place. We think that the Attorney General is the appropriate place to have that happen. With me today, I have a number of manufacturers who are here to speak in support of the bill.
Mr. Chairman, members, my name is Will Gonzalez. I'm here representing the Coalition for Procurement Reform. This is a national group made up of some of the largest roofing material manufacturers in North America. And I have with me today four manufacturers who will get a little bit more in detail about what they view as going on out there in the marketplace. But before I do that, I wanted to just frame this issue for you. I think today you're going to hear opposition coming up on this bill arguing that what we're talking about today is going to result in substandard roofs for schools. Absolutely not true. All the schools are required, the roofing materials are required to meet state standards. Everyone here meets those same quality standards.
Why don't you argue your point? Don't argue what they may say.
Well, my point, we all have the same standards to meet in terms of quality. We all offer the same types of warranties. There's also going to be a concern of cost. That what we're talking about here today is going to raise costs for school districts. This committee, Assemblyman Delatorre's committee, has done a significant amount of work.
Don't argue their point.
No,
so just argue what you're in favor of. Don't argue what. Now, the next time we're just moving to the next witness.
Sure, understood. We have documentation of bids that from throughout the state, from school districts and higher education, that limit the material that could be used for roofing contracts throughout the state. There is a problem out there. We've got documentations that show that these problems are raising costs for schools from 30 to 100% for equal quality, equal warranty.
He already said that.
Sure.
Okay.
This bill is urgently needed. It's an urgent bill. It's an urgency bill for one reason. School districts are bleeding money. These projects are going for way more than they should be, and for that reason, we're here to support. And with that, I'll pass it over to the manufacturer representatives.
Morning. My name is Carter Slusher. I represent Firestone Building Products. To give you a little background about myself, I've been in the roofing industry 32 years. I'm a member of ASTM, and I've been there for 30 years. I served as an officer on the ASTM Committee for Roofing and Waterproofing. I'm a fellow of the Society, and I received an Award of Merit in 2000. Firestone is one of the 3 biggest manufacturers in North America, and we hope that the committee finds a way to make the bids equitable throughout so that my colleagues and I can all bid equally on those standards. We all have to conform to ASTM standards. Those are the standards of quality that were just mentioned. One way to write a proprietary or a closed specification is to take one of those standards and make it extreme, really unusual, so that that locks everybody else out of the specification. The impact of that on the state of California can be exemplified by the 40 jobs that my people looked at. Out of those 40, 10% were awarded to Brand X and Brand Y at a cost to the state of 60 to 80% over what Firestone bid. Those costs in actual numbers ranged from $137,000 to over $500,000. And if those were averaged, the average was $270,000. If you take that figure, 10%, and apply that to the 10,000 schools in the state of California, that would equal $270 million. So if you're not comfortable with that model, you can use a 1% value, and that's still $27 million. We hope we suggest that one of the ways of reconciling the situation is to have a certified architect or engineer review the specifications to make them all equal. Those are the end of my comments.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good morning. My name is Anthony Utter, and I'm the Area Vice President for GAF Materials Corporation and a resident of the state of California. I've been in the commercial roofing industry for 25 years. GAF Materials Corporation is North America's largest roofing product manufacturer. We're headquartered in Wayne, New Jersey, and we have 4 manufacturing locations in the state of California: Fontana, Fresno, Shafter, and Stockton. We employ numerous people in sales and marketing in the state of California, as well as the people in the plants. We have multiple product lines that include asphalt shingles, built-up roofing, modified roofing, TPO single-ply roofing, PVC roofing, coatings and restorations, and all the insulation and accessories to go along with an entire complete system. We're not limited to any one type of roofing system. Therefore, we're not a one-size-fits-all type company. We cover everything. GAF has an extensive certified contractor program with certified contractors factory trained and eligible to install roofing systems for up to a 30-year guarantee. As a matter of fact, all the manufacturers here in support offer guarantees up to 30 years in length, and these cover the components and the workmanship and their defects of installation. For these reasons, I respectfully request that you support Bill AB 635. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, my name is Don Lambrick. I'm an independent sales representative based out of California, and in this case I do represent Carlisle Syntec, who is the largest and oldest single-ply manufacturer in the world. In particular, and probably more importantly, I am a California citizen. I'm a third generation. I went to school here through college. I've watched this situation for many, many, many years, and I'm appalled at the overcharges that happen on my schools that I pay for. As an example, today I'd like to give you one example of a school and perhaps a bid problem that will highlight what we're talking about. Recently had a bid opportunity in a small town called Windsor, California. If you're familiar with that, it's above Santa Rosa. Interesting bid. It's for schools up there. Bid came out. It was a single source proprietary specification. It did say or equal in the specification. However, no equals were allowed. The interesting part about the specification of this manufacturer that was in it was he made a lot of claims on the material, made a lot of claims on his longevity, a lot of claims as to his product quality. The irony is the material was manufactured by Carlisle. We made it, but we weren't an equal. We couldn't bid on the job. The cost of the material on the job ranged anywhere from 40 to 70% higher than we would have sold it to a contractor through our local distribution. Highlights the overcharges. This is just one small instance. I urge you to vote for this measure. It's important for the state of California. It's important for our schools who, frankly, don't have the money that we'd like to see them have, and we'd like to get this system straightened around. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Brian Shaleski. I'm a little different kind of a guy. I'm not a manufacturer representative. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of California, and I'm president of Skyline Engineering. Skyline Engineering provides design and consulting services for public schools when they want to replace a roof. Prior to 1998, when I started Skyline Engineering, I worked as a sales representative for Tremco, one of the manufacturers of concern in this case. During my time at Tremco, I participated myself in the drafting of specifications for public bidding. The specs that I drafted were extremely difficult, if not impossible, for other manufacturers to meet. In fact, when I was a sales rep, I personally developed some of the techniques that are currently used to restrict competition. In 1998, I left Tremco and started my business as an independent company so that I could use my engineering degree and my license and to be able to expand my opportunities. As I began to provide engineering services for school districts in the field of roofing, I soon learned that the process of providing closed specs did not benefit the school districts. It did not benefit them at all. In fact, I discovered numerous specific cases where the expensive roofs actually performed very poorly. In some of the cases, they were roofs that I myself had sold the previous decade. I was also surprised, a little dismayed to learn that closed specifications were causing these price increases of 50% to 90%. Recently, my company was hired by 3 different school districts to help them open up specifications. These school districts had previously been using manufacturer reps to write their specifications. They hired us to come in and what I would call open up the specifications. In all 3 cases, we were able to reduce the cost of a roofing project by anywhere from 40 to 90%. And these are verifiable cases where you can actually look at bid results. Just want to say a couple words about licensure. Recently, one of the things that this bill will require is that a professional engineer or architect actually draft the specifications for roofing. This is a system that the state of California has set up for life and safety when it comes to our buildings. Recently, our company was hired to provide quality inspections on a roofing project that was not designed by us. The specifications were written by a sales rep. Upon review of the specifications, we realized that no provision had been made for improved drainage. The roof didn't drain properly. No provision had been made for overflow drainage in case a drain plugged up. These are life and safety issues that, as a registered professional engineer, I'm liable to address if I'm drafting specifications. But if a sales rep drafts specifications, there's no governing body that he is subject to. That's the whole purpose for the program of registered professional design engineers and architects. So I just would like to strongly encourage you to support this bill for many, many different reasons. Thank you.
Are there further witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? Okay, so hold up, Mr. Senator Yee has a question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And maybe this goes directly to the author of the bill. If I can just kind of understand what exactly you are suggesting that we do. We have a situation where you have, I guess in this particular case in my own hometown, you have an administrator who basically goes out and farms out these particular bid for different projects. They somehow decided that they were going to allow a particular manufacturers to come in and write those specifications. In the course of writing those specifications, it turns out that the cost of a particular roof repair was a lot more costly than maybe someone else doing it. So now you want us to legislate and say you can't do that. Is that the essence of what you're trying to tell us to do?
No, we're clarifying how they are to undergo this process. Competitive bidding is already a state requirement, but clearly from all of the examples that have been demonstrated here, that isn't what's taking place. With these closed specifications...
But if I can just kind of clarify that particular point you just made, it is competitive in that it still allows any individual to kind of go in there into the market and bid on a particular job with the specification.
Not if the specifications are so narrow that if you have a range of competitors out there, manufacturers, folks who do this work, and you write the specs that are so narrow that only this many out of that many can bid, then by definition you are limiting competition.
Let me do something. Hold up. Don't go away.
And I can give one specific example.
Let me do this, because let's get the opposition on the record. Don't leave, and you guys don't go too far away.
I won't.
So let's get the opposition on the record, and then we'll come back, because they may raise some of the points that you're describing. I just don't want to have to go back and forth. So
Mr. Chair, while they're coming up, let me ask the author then this one question then. If, in fact, because of what happened in San Francisco, why didn't someone then report this issue to the district attorney or the city attorney that they are, in fact, violating the law of the state of not having competitive bids?
It was found after the fact. It was in the case of San Francisco, the more recent example, the one that was in the newspaper, that was just happenstance, that the new person came in, did an analysis of their bids, asked why it was done that way, and was told that's the way they've always done it. He decided to change, he or she, I'm not sure what it was, change the way they did business, and by changing the way they did business, opening up the bidding, they got these savings in the bids that they got. There was a criminal case in San Francisco about 10 years ago that we cited in our hearing. There was a criminal case in San Francisco related to this specific issue. So there have been criminal complaints related to this. Again, I'm not ascribing motive here. I'm not saying someone was doing it with unethical reasons. I think in many cases it's just convenience, as I described in my opening comments. Someone comes to you and says, we'll do full service. We'll do the front end stuff. We'll give you the specs. You'll be able to put it out to bid. You'll be able to get the bids in and get the work going. That's convenient. Well, with that convenience comes a pretty high price. That's what we found at the hearing.
Let's hear the opposition.
Chairman Wright, members, Tom Duffy for the Coalition for Adequate School Housing, and regrettably we're opposed to this bill, and basically for two reasons that we state in our letter of opposition, which you probably have not received simply because we just had the bill language at the end of last week. But two things. First, And you've heard from those that are supporting this bill about their experience. I served in Ventura County, serving the county superintendent of schools and also the Moorpark Unified School District. I was a superintendent for 12 years, was involved in a lot of building projects. So the process of putting out a bid allows any bidder that does not believe that it's a fair process to challenge and protest that bid. If that bidder is ignored by the superintendent and the Board of Education, then they have the ability, as I think Senator Yee has identified, to take legal action and to go further. So that exists today. The second reason for our opposition is that this would add to the costs of repairing schools. We have been in the 3 worst years ever that I've seen in public education, and I've been in public education for over 40 years. We do not need to add to the costs of repairing roofs. I would be pleased to work with Mr. De La Torre, his staff, and this committee in the work that we do with our organization when we do workshops, helping districts understand what the law requires. We do these 10 months out of the year, and it's something we believe that everyone should have an opportunity to bid on a project, and that they should understand what that project really entails. So our opposition is, as I said, that there are remedies, and also there's going to be additional costs. Thank you very much.
Okay, Senator Harmon.
Mr. Duffy, can you quantify what that additional cost to the school districts might be if this bill were enacted?
Senator Harmon, I can't give you a number, but the way that I read the bill, it would mean that the architect of record that we pay to design would have a second architect or other specialist oversee to be able to determine if something isn't equal or not. So I don't know what that would be, sir.
Well, I'm like you. I recognize there's a cost, but I'm trying to find out how much that cost going to be. Is it $100? Is it $500? Is it $10,000? Is it $100,000? I don't know.
You want to answer that? Go ahead.
Eric Bakke with the Los Angeles Unified School District.
Last name again, sir?
Bakke.
Thank you.
To begin, I'd want to apologize to the Assemblyman. Usually we like to speak with our members before, just there hasn't been enough time to talk with you about our position. To answer your question directly, our district was looking at it yesterday, and it's really going to be dependent upon the size of the roofing project. I know.
I figured that was probably
but what we figured on a simple about 10,000 square foot roof, we were just looking at an example, just bare bones basic. We were looking at, depending on the material types that we're using, the cost can range between $10,000 to $25,000 per bid.
Okay.
That is probably the low end of what we can expect to see, and that's just a small roof. LA Unified has over 4 million square foot of roof. So it's a very small dollar we're talking about.
That's exactly the information I was looking for.
Our position is, again, related to the cost, and we applaud the author for trying to look at ways in which to save cost. The concern that we have is that there's an assumption that every school district is doing it wrong. And that's just not the case. If you are actually following the law with regards to the equal or provisions, and you are actually filling out your conflict of interest disclosure forms, you're doing everything you're supposed to do. But what this bill will do would add additional cost to a school district. Now, the bill is a mandate, and in all likelihood, it's a reimbursable mandate that we'll probably not see with the current economic times that we're in. So the school districts are going to be forced to front that cost. For us, that means our taxpayers are paying when, in fact, we were saving this money because we weren't, under the current process, having to expend it. So from that perspective, we just don't feel that the bill is crafted to address what we believe is the author's intent. And it's kind of like saying that you're taking a sledgehammer when a scalpel is necessary. We would be happy to work with the authors to try to figure out what specific language would be necessary, but this would basically put a penalty on those school districts that are actually doing the job correctly. Thank you very much.
Jim Gross on behalf of the Garland Company, which is located in Cleveland, Ohio. I have with me the president of the Garland Company, Dave Sokol. And I just want to comment on what the bill actually says, because I think that there's been a lot of discussion of what it will do. But if you look at page 4 of the bill, It says a district or governmental body shall ensure and verify in writing that an architect, engineer, or roofing consultant develops the plans and specifications for a roof project to ensure that the project is designed. I apologize. Page 4, line 19.
Thank you.
This is the section that discusses hiring an architect, engineer, or roofing consultant. And as you know, this bill only applies to repairs of roofs. It does not apply to new construction projects. In essence, then, if you follow the definitions in the bill, which are on page 3, what the bill does is it sets up a standard for what is or equal, so that when they go out to bid and they say, we want these specifications or equal. Now, with the criteria on page 3 starting at line 22, it creates a situation where a contractor, a bidder can say, I don't think it's equal. And if they say, well, I don't think it's equal, it puts the district in the position, or any public agency, this bill applies to all public agencies, of having to then defend that position by hiring an architect, an engineer, or a roofing consultant. Automatically, then, they face that cost if they have tried to establish a standard that is higher than the basic commodity roofing standard. Which, there's nothing wrong with those roofs. They just may not last more than 10 years, and that may be a decision the school district has made. But if they want a longer-lasting roof, 30 years, then they will be challenged that that is not or equal, and the only way they can defend themselves is to incur the costs that the LA Unified said. In that instance, then, many school districts will be forced into the situation that they will not be able to choose a roof that will last longer and thereby cost more money, which was the discussion that occurred here, and ultimately they'll have to back off because they can't afford it, and they will have to go with a lower price roof that may not last as long. And I think that that's really what is at issue here. You had very large companies up here talking about their concern that it wasn't fair. This bill tilts it the other way. It basically says that it'll be too expensive to do anything other than a commodity roof, the or equal.
Okay,
and as a consequence,
let me do
it'll be too expensive.
I've just got a lot of people, and I'm sure
yes, sir, thank you.
If you brought the gentleman here from Ohio, that
yes, sir,
he probably came to talk. So,
thank you, Mr. Chairman. The difficult thing for us to understand.
Do we have your name, sir?
I'm sorry, Dave Sokol, president of the Garland Company. The difficult thing for us to understand is the motivation behind this bill. We would just like.
Let me help you with that. His assertion is that you're rigging bids in your favor.
I didn't name any construction companies.
I'm just saying, but the concern is that companies who participate in the drafting of the bid rig it in their favor. That's the assertion, not necessarily your company, but that. Short answer is
and that's simply not true, okay. Mr. Chairman.
Right, I'm not saying that you did, but I'm saying you said you don't understand the bid. I'm saying the purpose of the bill is that there's a concern that bids are being rigged. If the bid is rigged, then the people who would attempt to bid are unable to compete because it was rigged in favor of the person who rigged it. And the other fellow testified that he used to rig the bids. I don't know that the statute of limitations is expired on that, but his testimony earlier was that he worked for a company and his job was to rig bids.
Well, the Garland Company has been around since 1895. I've been in the industry for 25 years, and we simply don't do that. We raise the bar on quality. We provide a very systematic approach so that the public agency will get a 30-plus year roof system. The customers that we service have typically experienced problems with their roofing programs prior to our getting involved, and they wanted a different way. The commercial, the roofing industry in general, commercial and residential, is over a $35 billion industry. The Garland Company has less than 1% of that. The three major manufacturers that were up here today, own the majority of the marketplace. And so we see it as a competitive thing, and trying to drag the legal system into that is don't understand that. If they wanted to manufacture a product that's as innovative and as robust as ours is. Every one of those manufacturers up here could choose to do that. So we'd like to keep the competitive nature within the spirit of the state as it's been for quite a long time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman and members, I'm Dennis Myers with the California Association of School Business Officials, also testifying today for the Association of California School Administrators in opposition. I have to admit the testimony from the support was compelling. From our perspective, where this bill falls short is just in the administrative costs that this requires. What we see from the side of purchasing and procurement people and facilities people is that they're very good at following the law. I mean, they go into the code and read it and live by it. And that's where we think that this should be addressed, is in just in describing in state law how these bids and specs should be written, as opposed to putting in another layer of review. And we, welcome to work with the author and the industry on that over the next couple of weeks to try to hammer something out. But as far as just increasing costs for the sake of additional review, we think you ought to just make sure that the inputs are correct and not add to our costs on the other side. So
hold on.
I had a question.
Okay, hold on, Senator Yee.
If I can ask the representative of, I guess what you represent, school officials and so on. To be honest with you, I mean, sitting here and knowing a little bit about school districts and so on, you guys created this problem. I mean, I don't know how you allow members within your organizations, professionals, to then have contractors to come in and write the specs. You might as well not come to work. You might as well just turn it over to a contractor and let them write it for you. You don't have to do your job. So I mean, when you read between the lines, that's what happened. At least what that I read in the article about San Francisco. You had individuals who basically kind of, came in to someone's office and said, well, this is great and dandy and it's going to help protect your roof forever and ever. And let me go ahead and just write the spec for you and we'll take care of it that way. Have you talked to those colleagues in San Francisco? How and whether that happened?
Senator Yee, I cannot defend those actions, and from our perspective, is we want to make sure that doesn't happen again, because that protects our members. So that's why I'm suggesting is make the law more obvious, because that's what our people refer to, so that this doesn't happen again. So that the direction is in the code. And it's clear how these specs should be written so that this doesn't happen again. It protects the public interest and it protects my membership too.
So are you supporting this bill?
We're opposed to the cost that it puts into place and saying that there's a slightly different approach that we would take to it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Senator Harmon.
Question for Mr. Myers, was it? Would you agree with the conclusion reached by the committee, which Assemblyman Delatorre chairs, that numerous schools around the state have been overcharged 30%, 50%, I even heard 90%. Isn't this if that's true, isn't this a concern to your organization? And won't this bill remedy that problem?
Well, I think that was clear in my testimony.
But then you're opposed to the bill
because of the cost. We think that it can be addressed. We can be addressed through tighter language.
I heard the witness from LA Unified say that it was maybe $10,000 to $25,000, but for the cost. But if you're paying over 50%, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're being overcharged in letting it happen.
Yeah, I understand your perspective. Right. Well, I understand your perspective, and we think that we can address it through tighter language.
All right. Thank you very much. I believe Senator Weiland.
Senator Weiland.
No one has addressed the statutory requirement. Is there a statutory requirement which says these are the specifications for roofs that are being repaired in statute?
The only statutes are relating to the bidding process.
Okay.
Broadly defined for any product.
I've been on a school board, and I've been on a school board that did a lot of construction, a lot of maintenance. Here's the broader perspective. Outside of major infrastructure projects, more public money is spent on school construction than anything else in this state. Most of it is done terribly. And I'll tell you why. Because most school districts do not have anyone working for them who understands construction management. Most architects are paid a fee, a commission based on the total cost of the project. So if you look at schools and you see huge differences, the architect that builds a real big fancy school made more money. Secondly, and I don't mean to attack architects, but I was also in the building supply business. Most architects have zero idea, none, about the actual performance of materials. We had an exception, apparently, with this engineer. Most engineers don't understand specific products. They may be able to write specifications. They have no understanding of specific projects. We waste, and I have a bill that would address part of this, we waste huge amounts of public money because most districts won't go out and hire from outside, and you need construction management people who present choices. These are all about choices. Bidding for anything demands competitive bids for similar specifications, but the only person who can really understand that are construction managers. So you get school districts that don't know anything about it, someone puts it, it's all over the board. You get someone and they bring in a bid and they say, fine, that sounds good, we've done work for you, and it's just all over the map. So if you really want to reform this...
Senator Weiland, hold up, don't go away. Let me get the other witnesses in opposition on the record.
All right.
Hold your point right there, we'll get back to you, okay?
Dave Walrath, representing Small School Districts Association. For a lot of testimony, I'll keep it brief. We are opposed basically for the same reasons Los Angeles Unified. It's strange to say large urban, small rural, same issue. The concern about the increased cost related to additional bid challenges and having to hire outside people for the review. The question of savings on cost from a bid. I don't know the data that was used, so I cannot respond to that. I cannot do an analysis of their 30%, 60% because I've never seen the data or the research. I can say what Senator Leroy Green always said. You can build a school cheaper, but it may cost you more in the long run. I do not know if those increased costs were costs that had lower life cycle costs if you look at it over a 20, 25, or 30-year period. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Steve Newsom. I'm a practicing architect, and I began working on...
He just said you don't know nothing about specifications.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you from the most, you may be an exception, but having been in a business where I've seen a hell of a lot of specifications, I hope you're an exception, because most architects can draw something, but they have no idea about materials.
Senator, it was a joke. It's okay. Well, okay.
It's a lot of money. He's only kidding.
I began doing K-12 projects in California in 1988, and my practice is exclusively K-12 projects. And I've worked throughout the state, and our firm in the past 15 years has completed over $2 billion in projects. So K-12 projects I am extremely familiar with. I regularly specify roofing systems from every single manufacturer that's been represented here. Every single one of them provides a very high quality product. I'd like to clarify that from what I know and when I have seen differences in prices, it's not a product price difference that we're looking at. Typically when a price is 30, 40, 50, 90, whatever the percentages are that you're looking at now, it's because they have hired a company to provide a lot more than just the product. They are doing increased inspection, there is greater warranties, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a problem here, I think, in the information that was given earlier as examples. It's not apples to apples. My opposition, and I do oppose the bill, my opposition is that while there, I believe, were 4 projects that were cited earlier, while there may be problems that occur, there are problems that occur, in certain secluded incidents all the time. But what this would do, this bill would fundamentally change the way I practice and specify products. I will specify a product based on my research, and I always want there to be competition for that product. I don't, unless there is some very compelling reasons that's substantiated by the Public Contract Code, I will not specify an individual product because the bids will come in higher. My fees are not tied to the ultimate cost of a project. I want the cost to be as low as possible. It makes me look good. If they come in higher than what my client has budgeted, it makes me look bad. So what it would do, getting back to the change in the way I practice, right now when I specify a product, and this could be any product, if a substitution is proposed, it's the requirement of that company or individual that's proposing the substitution to prove it to me, prove that they're equal. What this bill would do is, and it's somewhat confusing right now, it would either require me to prove that what is being substituted is equal or not, or it would require an outside consultant, architect, engineer, or consultant to do that. I'm the architect of record. I stamp every drawing, sign it, and I have a tremendous amount of liability on it. If the bill is requiring an outside architect with no liability to certify that this is an equal product, and the roof is one of the most important, if not the most important, items on a building at all, because it protects everything below it. So my problem here is that if it's an outside entity, they're going to be saying, yes, this is an equal. What if I disagree? I'm the one signing the drawings. So I see a lot of problems with the bill.
Let me. I mean, we've been a while. Let me ask the other witnesses to be brief because there are a couple of other folks as well. But I want to get everybody in opposition on the record, and then there are a number of questions from the committee.
Mr. Chairman, members, Mark Smith on behalf of the American Council of Engineering Companies of California. Our particular concern is on page 4 and 5 of the bill. It deals with the certification for the outside engineer and architect that must be filled out and increases the exposure and the liability. I mean, these kinds of forms and these sort of certification processes that take place only serve to draw professional consultants into the web of litigation if and when these problems arise. I think I understand the purpose of the certification is to demonstrate that there is no financial interest between the engineer or the architect who's hired to do the comparative evaluation and the firm providing the roofing material or the roofing solution. But what this bill does is it imposes all the liability and the standard on the outside third-party consultant who, in all the reports, is supposed to be the person independently verifying things. The bill should impose this requirement on the materials manufacturer who might have an in-house engineer who says, oh yeah, you can't use anything but our own product. So this portion of the bill needs to be flipped.
All right.
Thank you.
Good. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Mark Christian with the American Institute of Architects California Council. We don't have an opposed position on the bill. I apologize to the author. We have not had time to communicate. So if I just be very brief, the concerns raised by Mr. Newsom, the architect, and Mr. Smith are the same reasons why we have a concern with the bill. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Chair, members, Bo Biller with Platinum Advisors on behalf of Tremco, and to make it very brief, we will get the letter as soon as it's finalized to the Assemblyman in opposition, but I have Don Metzger with Tremco for any questions and background on the company.
Okay. I'm sure it's a great company. I've not used it personally, but I'm sure you do good stuff. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Wes Larson, California State University. We certainly want to be wise stewards of every dollar we get, both public dollar and non-state dollar. We have a significant amount of non-state dollar now that we build with. We don't have a position on this bill, but we're troubled, and a lot of the concern is what we've been discussing here. Certainly, I've met with the author's staff, and we want to work with the author to find the best product for all of our roofing projects. We see additional costs, expense, and we need some clarification in several areas. Certainly, we have projects, since this bill takes effect immediately, we have projects in the pipeline as well as planning, and we need some clarification on that. We're willing to work with the author. We understand if it makes it out of committee today, it goes to appropriations, and we will do that.
Okay. Let me, and I know Senator Weiland, I cut you off, but is there any further opposition? Okay. Senator Weiland, I told you
I'm pleased that this architect, I don't know where you went, seems to act as, seems to actually have the knowledge.
He's in the back. Okay.
Well, he seems to have the knowledge and focus and essentially doing what I think is needed, and that is being the construction manager, at least part of it in terms of specifying materials, and that is an exception. You know, anytime you build anything, say any of us personally who've replaced a roof, in effect, we have to determine what specifications we want, and there usually is a choice. We have to try to determine the validity of those various choices. In other words, if one roof is a 30-year roof, is it? And we have to try to determine the costs and the best choice. And this is what confronts school districts. And unfortunately, most of them are hamstrung because they do not have people working for them, typically, who actually understand those choices and are able to make those choices. Now, the districts that this architect is working for may have an advantage because he does seem to be very familiar with that. There's another, by the way, there's another aspect of construction management, and that is picking the actual builder and making sure that the builder can deliver the school on time. And
why don't we get back to his bill, though?
Is this different? Is this different than what already exists in the code in terms of requirements for bidding? I know there's a part here that has DGS and SAB explaining the code. Is this different from the code? In other words, if I'm a school district, even though I may not have the expertise, if there's no specification in the code, I have to decide, do I want to spend the money for a 10, 15, 30-year roof, and then I have to decide that the manufacturers...
Why don't we let him answer?
I think this 10, 20, 30-year roof deal is a red herring. And I can speak to that in a second with the alleged warranty that has been thrown around. And I can read to you exactly what's in the warranty. And it's not a 30-year warranty. It's a 5-year warranty with options going up to 30 years. And I'll go into the details in a second. So I think that whole concept of a 10-year roof versus a 30-year roof, and there was testimony in our hearing where a roof is a roof is a roof. If it's well done, well installed, it's going to last. And so I just want to get away from that concept.
Well, I think a couple of things. Let me, because we'll be here a while.
But getting back to the question of specs, again, the only things in statute are related to broad bidding practices. So we would be adding clearly this issue and regarding roofs. An engineer, architect, or certified roof consultant can still be hired by a manufacturer and can still write the specs, but they must sign and declare their relationship in the financial disclosure, the issue that was raised here at the very end. If they write a closed spec, then they have to get an outside person to review it and say something is or is not equivalent. Why is that important? Because you want to have somebody on the outside doing that. And regardless of the size, to contradict the testimony from LA Unified, regardless of the size of the roof, the independent analysis is of the specs. So all you're talking about is the volume of something when you're talking about the size of the roof. This goes to the specs. What is a substitute for product X or product Y? That's it. So it would be a flat rate to do that component of it, because whether it's 1,000 square feet or 100,000 square feet, the kind of product is what you're talking about. You're not talking about the scale of it. So the numbers that he threw out, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it was, preposterous on their face.
Senator Price.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly have enjoyed the discussion. I think there's been some good points raised on both sides. I certainly am in favor of increasing competition and, wherever possible, leveling the playing field. And I think this legislation does that. It is a matter of choice, obviously, versus costs. But I think this bill at least has started some dialogue. It sounds like the opponents.
Quite a bit of dialogue.
It sounds like even the opponents are conceding some points, but are willing. But there certainly is a need to discuss some more details.
Yes.
So I'm willing to support the bill to get it out. I think, as I said, both sides, along with the chair, can try to resolve some of the specifics that have been raised, and hopefully providing a more level playing field with the kind of protections that are built in to make sure that the competition is robust and it's fair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I am completely open to working to figure out what we do in terms of clarifying or massaging this. And I will point out that all of the opposition was focused on only one component of the three components of the bill. The issue of financial disclosure, except for the last person, nobody spoke out against, and nobody spoke out against the 800 number at the AG's office to report this kind of stuff. So we focused only on that first.
Let me take a couple of things. I think I'm not there. I have a couple of concerns. One concern is that if I've got people working at schools who are specifying what ought to happen in construction, and they're too stupid to figure this out, I got a much bigger problem than this bill.
We can't legislate stupidity.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And so the difficulty I have is that if a person is getting paid for the specifications that he writes, that's already illegal, just as there have already been criminal cases on that. So we don't need a new law to do what's already in law. I think if you write the spec and you're getting paid, that's a concern, but that's already illegal. I think, again, I don't know, and we haven't seen how many school districts did this. LA Unified may have a record where they actually save money. So from their standpoint, you could create a cost. For the school district that was involved in a kind of what in effect would be a scam, then I don't know that I want to paint all the school district with the same brush. But what you raise is something that's not limited to school districts. We might find that maybe we should do this for cities. Perhaps the state could be involved in the same thing, because just to say that we're looking at school roofs might be, because if this is an issue there and they function under, in effect, the same set of laws, then why are we not expanding it to, say, every government entity which issues a bid? I think the other concern I have, and I'll let you, you'll have a motion from Senator Price, and you can work on this on your close, is we hire people at school districts to do work, and you're right, we can't legislate that they be good. We can't legislate that they be smart. And if people are prepared to break the law, as they would if there's a conflict of interest, in current law, absent this bill, it's already illegal for you to profit from the work that you do without some level of disclosure. The issue that you raise about roofs, as a 35-year landlord, there are differences in roofs. It depends on how you set up the roof. Do you put a cap sheet down you can stack a roof in different ways to make the bid differently. You can say, I'm going to hot mop it between each coat. I'm only going to put, the way you get to the specification of how long the roof lasts is a direct function of how you do the roof. So you're right. If all you did was put down one sheet of paper and you hot mopped it and put some rocks on top of it, that would give you a certain level of guarantee. If you said, I'm going to put 3 sheets down or 4 sheets down, if you said I'm going to, I mean, there are ways that you do, in fact, increase how long the roof is going to last. So that's a function of the bid. And in some instances, it might be a decision of the school district, because if you say, well, I want 6 sheets, or, you know, depending upon how the roof is done, I mean, again, I'm much more familiar with residentials, but, you know, I can put up to 4 shingles on top if I got to take it off, and then if I have to sheet it and put plywood on top of that and come back. I mean, there are a number of ways in which the specification can be different. I think this needs some more work. I think the other witnesses in the school district said that there clearly are some issues that need to be addressed. I think it's bigger than just schools, because this isn't limited to a school district. Like I said, the city of Sacramento could end up with the same thing. The city of Bell, God forbid, could have, you know, a similar thing that ought to be a part of what we're looking at.
We'll deal with Bell on another day.
But I'm just saying, I don't know that I want to just take a law that currently deals with bidding in general and put a special provision in it for roofs in school districts. I think that's just narrower than I want to go. But I'll let you close, and then I'm going to. Senator Price has a motion on the. Okay.
First, on who it applies to. Page 3, line 7 and 8. District or government body means a school district, community college district, state university, or state agency. We do apply it to ourselves. The school districts obviously are the ones who have made themselves known here, but in fact, in the hearing that we had, the Division of State Architects was one of the places that did this, that did a closed spec a few years ago. So this is prevalent. It isn't just school districts. Obviously, we spent quite a bit of time talking about school districts here. In terms of how broad it is, getting back to the school districts, we found school districts in San Francisco, San Diego, LA, and Kern County, just to name a few. But it was prevalent up and down the state. Not overwhelmingly, but there are examples up and down the state. In terms of the 30-year roof, one of the manufacturers offers a 30-year warranty, and this is how they say that they have a 30-year roof. Let me read to you directly from their warranty how you get this warranty. Owner needs to call between the 6th and 10th month each 5th year after the 15th year to request inspection. The owner must pay for any repairs recommended by the manufacturer. Inspection is done by only the manufacturer, and work is done only by a contractor approved by the manufacturer. The owner must pay the warranty validation fee in place at that time, which is not determined via contract at the time of purchase, meaning when you start this process. You must pay $200. The owner must pay $200 per day for inspection plus travel costs. After all this, you need to request that the manufacturer extend your warranty within 60 days after all work is completed and paid for, and no later than 60 days prior to the expiration of the present warranty. The owner must do this every 5 years. 5 years. Not 30 years, not 20 years, every 5 years. That is their 30-year roof warranty. So I just want to get to the issue here, which is I understand the concerns of the chair. I'm willing to work with the folks who came up. I'm willing to work with the committee to fine-tune this. But clearly there is a problem, and there are millions of dollars statewide being wasted because of this. Okay, and so we need to get to that issue.
Senator Yee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Del Torre, I absolutely agree with you that there's a problem. The fact that you have these extraordinary costs and not knowing exactly what you get for those particular costs is something that does concern me. But what is also compelling for me is the fact that you have individuals who are from the school system albeit not mine, but from the school system that says that it's going to add an additional layer. And as you know, facilities money are just hard to come by. You know, the state is at the tail end of our modernization bond. Local districts sometimes can, sometimes cannot get their own money. And so these are rather, as you indicate, precious dollars. And so I think there's a problem, but I'm not sure that this is the exact solution. Now that I think my own school district has pointed out, I need to get to the bottom of this one to find out whether or not is this the way to address this particular problem. I think the other is that maybe through the chair of this committee should ask, are there more regulations that we need to put on to those individuals who are responsible for our facilities? Do they have a ethical practice of some sort? Do they have sufficient constraint on some of the things that they are doing right now? Because we may do a bill here, but there are other problems that then we're going to chase after those problems, and again, if we can handle these personnel who are allowing individuals to basically guard our hen house, I think that's a problem. So, I would, go ahead and support, I think, the chair. I think you're right. We need to talk to, the different sides and so on. And the only way that I think we can do that is that if Mr. Chair, I don't want to speak for you, but if this bill can stay within the possession of you and this committee, so we're going to have some further debate and discussion about it, and hopefully get something that really is workable, and then we don't get any unintended consequences. So that would be my position and where I would be coming from.
Again, the whole point here is that only one of the three components of this bill has anybody really spoken out against, and even the chair's comments were focused on that one piece. I'm more than willing to work on that one piece. The other two pieces are absolutely valid, and there was very little discussion about. So I would say that rather than that approach, I'd say let's work on that one piece that the concerns have been raised about.
Are you willing to let this bill be worked on and then hold another hearing, and I guess it'd take waivers if we actually are going to do something about it this year?
We don't have time.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if the proponents and opponents can get together and resolve those, then yeah, I mean, and clearly, I mean, the issue with waivers would be much more an issue for your side of the aisle than mine. So if the waiver issues don't bother you, they don't bother me.
They wouldn't bother me.
Okay.
I do think, and you surmised many of my comments much more succinctly.
Okay.
But if that could be done, I'm inclined to vote for it today with a commitment of the author to work with those opposed and see if we can come up with something.
The issue you'd have, if we do it here, then you'd have to do it here, because I don't know that I could make a commitment for waivers at appropriations, which is where it would go next. So if we're going to do it here, then we would do it here, and Assemblyman, you'd have to convene those people and work something out.
Absolutely.
And then we would come back and get a waiver to hold a hearing, and appropriations can meet after we report it out. So that would be one option, or we can, I mean, this almost seems like, some additional let's make a deal or something, but we could try to vote today. Mm-hmm. We can attempt to give you time to work on it. That would be your choice, Assemblyman.
I would ask that we move it to appropriations. It has to be amended there anyways. Okay. It couldn't be amended here. And I would work with the chair and the folks that have come up, the school district folks, and come up with something that would be more manageable for them.
Well, you have a motion. Okay, you have a motion from Senator Price, and why don't we call the roll?
Wright?
No.
Wright, no. Harmon?
Aye.
Harmon, aye. Calderon? Denham? Flores? Negrete-McLeod? Aye. Negrete-McLeod, aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Price? Aye. Price, aye. Wyland? Aye. Wyland, aye. Yee?
No.
Yee, no.
Mr. Chair, Senator Padilla is in another committee.
Right.
He asked that the roll be held open.
We didn't close the other one, so we'll hold it up. And if we have an issue, we will notice reconsideration in advance if we need to do that.
Okay.
But yeah, but Senator, in fact, I'm on his committee as well. Senator Padilla, why don't we open the roll on Assemblyman Berryhill's bill?
The current vote is 6-0, with the chair voting aye. Absent members Calderon, Denham, Oropeza, Padilla, Wyland. Wyland, aye. That bill is 7-0.
Okay, we'll hold a roll for one more count. We'll open the roll again on Senator Delatorre's bill.
The current vote is 4-2, with the chair voting no. Absent members Calderon, Denham, Flores, Oropeza, Padilla. It's
Okay.
4-2.
4-2. Flores, aye. 5-2.
Flores, aye.
Oh, did somebody else take a? Okay.
So it's on its third. This is its third set, but we would have to do.
This is AB 635 de la Torre. The current vote is 5-2, with the chair voting no. The absent members are Calderon, Denham, Oropeza, Padilla.
Aye.
Padilla, aye. That bill passes 6-2. AB 2036, current vote is 7-0, with the chair voting aye. Absent members Calderon, Denham, Oropeza, Padilla.
Aye.
Padilla, aye. That passes 8-0.